This could rip the Lakers apart fast. RichPaul, LeBron's agent, got publicly checked by Luka Dončić's camp and Austin Reaves' camp. And it all started with a strange comment where he hinted at trading one of them, maybe even both. If I were the Lakers, I'd be taking that real serious right now. I'm cool either way, but that was just the surface. That comment sparked a full-blown confrontation so intense that other people had to step in, and it didn't stop there. RichPaul went on a media run, taking shots at Luka and Reaves while spinning stories to protect LeBron. I've got the real context and why this could seriously damage LeBron's final chapters in the NBA. Let's be clear. None of this is normal. Not for an agent, not for the NBA, and definitely not for a team that should be chasing wins instead of dodging headlines. Agents aren't meant to be public figures. If you know an agent's voice, something already went wrong because their job is to stay quiet, protect the client, and keep drama away.
I were the Lakers, I would give serious consideration to moving Luka. I can get Luka and Austin are redundant.
I'm fine either way.
Agents move in silence and let players talk on the court. Look at Jeff Schwartz. He represents Nikola Jokic and plenty of rotation players across the league. You never see him on podcasts breaking down rosters or throwing shade at teammates. That's because he understands his job is to protect environments, not destabilize them. RichPaul does the opposite. He's always in front of microphones, giving takes nobody asked for. He's talking about players tied directly to Lakers chemistry and his own client's future. That's not smart positioning. That's tension waiting to explode. And once that pressure hits the locker room, trust cracks, roles get shaky, and everything starts feeling uncomfortable real fast for everyone involved.
If I was the Lakers, I would probably be targeting the Memphis Grizzlies as a trade partner
For?
Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, that'd be a great fit.
I would.
For whom?
You could say, let me withhold that, but this comes with
Reaves.
This comes with a very unemotional attachment.
But once reports dropped that this turned into an actual on-court confrontation, that's what it stopped being just talk. Really think about how crazy this is. An agent publicly judging teammates and straight up framing Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves as the issue, while completely skipping over the role his own client, LeBron James, played in all of it. At this point, RichPaul is moving like a shadow GM with zero accountability. He's acting as LeBron's shield, pushing blame onto other players, while LeBron stays untouched. Even Leon Rose, before becoming Knicks president, had a reputation for being aggressive, but he stayed low-key and smart about it. He fought for his clients, sure, but he didn't do it by lighting fires in the media and letting everyone else choke on the smoke. That's the difference between real agent credibility and reckless noise. The moment you start publicly talking about other players, especially teammates of your own client, you cross a line that almost nobody ever walks back from, which is why this whole thing is so wild.
Really, Austin Reaves, and who knows what happens by the playoffs, is Ginobili, right? In an ideal world,
on a championship team,
he's the killer sixth man, right?
Yeah.
On the Spurs, he'd be the sixth man, right?
Right.
Especially back in the day.
The Spurs made that decision, and you know what Ginobili did? He embraced it.
Right.
And how many championships they win? 5.
Yeah.
It's those type of decisions to be made.
This isn't someone slipping up or getting too comfy behind a mic. This is someone who knows he can say things other agents wouldn't dare say because the power behind him is different. And that confidence doesn't come from clutch alone. It comes from a pipeline that's been quietly shaping narratives for years. LeBron stays clean. RichPaul grabs the mic. The media carries the message the rest of the way. And once you see that pattern, the real question pops up fast. Why does he feel so comfortable doing this? Why does he keep hopping on podcasts while the Lakers are spiraling, talking like he's got authority over the team itself? That answer starts with LeBron James. And here's the real thing about LeBron. This guy has spent nearly 2 decades mastering how to stay untouchable when things go sideways. When stuff goes wrong, it's never on him. When things go right, he gets the shine every time. That's not luck, that's a system working exactly as planned.
I think that's unfair to Austin.
Yeah.
I think this kid has shown that he can be, a go-to guy on a winning team. He's improved every single season.
LeBron never hops on podcasts to roast teammates or openly say how the roster should be flipped. He's got to keep that clean, stand-up image locked in. But RichPaul, that's where the magic or the chaos, depending how you see it, really happens. Paul can say anything, anytime, about anyone. And the wild part is the whole league sees it, and people are starting to talk. Take the Austin Reaves situation, for example. Skip Bayless tweeted this about RichPaul and LeBron. LeBron's agent RichPaul says on his new podcast the Lakers should trade Austin Reaves for Jaren Jackson Jr. LeBron says this is strictly Paul's opinion. No input from LeBron. Yeah, right, like nobody understands how this works anymore. LeBron stays clean. Paul plants the idea. The media runs with it. And suddenly the narrative is everywhere without LeBron lifting a finger. That's the playbook, plain and simple.
With his growth and the way he's continuing to improve and the trajectory that he's on right now, I have to disagree. I think he's earned the right to be a starter. I think he's a household name at this point in his career, and I think he'll only continue to get better.
And this isn't some one-time slip. Look at the timing of Paul's media runs, and it gets real interesting. Every time the Lakers hit a rough patch, RichPaul is suddenly everywhere, framing stories, shaping angles, and it never circles back to LeBron. Never. Which is wild when you look at what's actually happening on the floor lately. Since LeBron came back, the Lakers have dropped a few games. And if we're talking numbers, the defense tells a story people don't like to hear. This season, with LeBron on the court, the Lakers' defensive rating sits around 119.3. When he's off the floor, it drops to about 116.8. That's roughly 2.5 points better per 100 possessions. Those numbers don't scream coincidence at all.
Anytime you say anything about Bron, people call you and say, hey man, you might want to chill. I know you got some funny stories and shit. So I know ain't nothing getting by they whole camp. They run the league. They whole camp run the league.
That might not sound massive, but in the NBA, that gap is everything. That's the difference between a lottery-level defense and one that looks playoff-ready before the All-Star break. And it doesn't stop there. The Lakers have actually posted a better win percentage without LeBron than with him. They're 11-5 without him, compared to 8-5 with him. With numbers like that, you'd think the problem would be obvious. So why on earth does RichPaul jump on yet another podcast, and this time not just blame Austin Reaves or Luka Dončić? He went bigger. He blamed the entire Lakers roster and straight up said they aren't real contenders. That's wild. This is a whole new level of denial, because why is everyone else catching heat except the 41-year-old who refuses to step aside and keeps holding the team back? At this point, RichPaul is doing something no other agent in the league even attempts. He's taking LeBron's image, his brand, his legacy, and using the media to protect it, boost it, and bend narratives in his favor. Meanwhile, LeBron doesn't have to say a single word. And on one of those podcasts, RichPaul dropped the most explosive line yet, one that sent shockwaves through the league. Not just because of what he said, but how he said it and who he aimed it at. Without hesitation, he said, well, Luka doesn't play defense. Just like that. Not that Luka needs improvement. Not that his defense has ups and downs. Flat out labeling it as a major weakness right when Luka is leading the team in scoring and running nearly every possession with elite playmaking. Remember what I said about timing? Yeah, this fits perfectly. But he didn't stop there. He went even further and called Anthony Davis, the guy the Lakers traded to get Luka, the real defensive championship piece. Think about that for a second.
You know how that group works. They try to trade their players to where they want to.
Talk about the RichPaul clutch.
Yes, they do it the way they want to. Anthony Davis.
That's not just praising AD. That's basically turning to Luka and saying, you're the problem. And once that message is out there, there's no taking it back. And here's where it gets straight up funny. Paul didn't stop there. He also praised Nico Harrison, the GM who pushed that trade through, publicly backing his vision like it was genius chess. He talked about Harrison's thinking as if defense wins championships, suddenly justified trading away a generational offensive monster like Luka. The irony is wild. Harrison was fired just months later after the Mavericks front office realized how badly they messed that up. And it gets messier. Dallas is now struggling without Luka, stuck in the lower half of the West, scrambling to save their season after losing, arguably, the most dangerous offensive player in the league. Meanwhile, Luka is dropping around 37 points, 9 assists, and nearly 8 rebounds a night this season. For the Lakers, Luka is clearly a superstar, but according to Paul, defense is the hill he's willing to die on. At the same time, he's framing Anthony Davis as the real championship piece, conveniently ignoring that AD isn't the same defensive force he once was. And the Mavericks, they're still struggling defensively with him on the floor. RichPaul is picking and choosing facts to make Luka look bad. And that's the scary part. It works. It shapes perception fast. And this isn't just personal shots, it's strategic. By labeling Luka as the defensive issue and AD as the anchor, Paul is quietly telling the league, the fans, even future free agents, that the Lakers' future isn't as solid as it looks. And while all this is happening, LeBron stays fully protected. This is textbook media manipulation happening in real time. The way this narrative is stacked is deliberate. No wonder tension is boiling over. And if you think this stopped at podcast talk, nah, that was just the setup, because it wasn't only Luka he went after. This time, it spilled onto the court and turned into a real confrontation. It all went down on January 14th at halftime during the Lakers-Hawks game. That's when everything crossed the line. The fans were already on edge, and the tension inside the Lakers locker room was obvious, the kind that doesn't pop up overnight. This had been building for weeks. Why? Because after throwing shots at Luka, this guy jumped on yet another podcast and flat out said if he ran the Lakers, he'd call Memphis and include Austin Reaves in a trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. Let that really sink in. This is a player who is currently on the Lakers, grinding every night next to LeBron. And he's getting put on the chopping block by someone who doesn't even represent him. And if you're thinking it's just talk, nah. In the NBA, this is like publicly embarrassing someone in front of the entire league. And it didn't stop there. On another episode, Paul went even further, hinting that Austin should just accept being a sixth man, stay quiet, and let stars like LeBron soak up the spotlight. You don't need inside sources to see the issue here. That's straight disrespectful. And reporters and analysts called it out immediately. They said it was unfair, unprofessional, and exactly the type of behavior that can blow a team up if it keeps happening. Now here's why this hits different. Austin Reaves isn't some hype-driven name with a loud online image. He came into the league undrafted. No guarantees, no safety net. Everything he has, he earned the hard way. And he didn't just survive. He showed up when it mattered most. He delivered in the playoffs under insane pressure, when every possession mattered and the spotlight was brutal. Then he signed a team-friendly deal, the kind of contract that actually gives the Lakers flexibility to move pieces around. Let's be real, that's the kind of move you expect from a veteran superstar, not an undrafted player who had to fight for every minute he ever got. Now compare that to LeBron, whose career started with advantages most players never even dream of. He was basically NBA ready before leaving high school, with the whole system already leaning his way. So when you look at Reaves, his frustration wasn't about ego at all. It was about respect and protecting what he built from nothing. And beyond the stats or the contract, Reaves is that guy in the locker room. He's the glue. The one teammates trust to keep the vibe steady and hold people accountable when things get shaky. You don't just label a player like that a sixth man and expect peace. That's how resentment starts. And since he's not a clutch client, it makes it real clear why RichPaul felt so comfortable publicly taking shots at him. So with all that boiling, then you add those targeted comments right before halftime of the Hawks game. That's when Reggie Berry, Austin Reaves' agent from a separate agency, finally said enough and confronted Paul right on the sideline near half court. People in the building said it got so heated behind the scenes that staff had to physically step in and break it up. By the time halftime ended, one thing was obvious. RichPaul's public narratives weren't just talk anymore. They were a direct threat to player morale and team chemistry. And this is exactly why Luka and Reaves' camps were always going to respond. If you replay the buildup, this blow-up was pressure hitting a breaking point. For Luka, even before Paul's defense comment, there was already a cloud following him. Analysts, commentators, and big voices like Zach Lowe have been taking heavy swings at Luka's defense for years. That's what happens to every offensive superstar when teams hunt you nonstop. And yeah, that narrative sticks like a shadow. One analytics post from last playoffs showed teams targeting Luka on defense, with Jaden McDaniels shooting 68.8% effective field goal percentage. When Luka was the primary defender, critics love to run with numbers like that, but they ignore the full picture. Luka is an offensive monster who still does plenty of dirty work. Yet those stats keep getting recycled, and RichPaul knew exactly what button he was pushing when he added fuel to that narrative at the worst possible time. Most stars deal with criticism, but this was different. The worst part here is that it came straight from LeBron's inner circle, which means it wasn't random at all. It was targeted, and that's toxic, especially when Luka has actually been getting positive defensive recognition lately, showing real growth and effort on that end. But when that same angle gets weaponized by someone tied to the so-called team leader, yeah, that hits different now. Flip it to Austin Reaves. This dude didn't walk into the league on a gold platter. He went undrafted in 2021, fought for a roster spot, earned every single minute, and turned himself into a real NBA starter. He came from nowhere and started dropping 20-plus points per game in the 2024-25 season. He started most games, led the Lakers in scoring at times, and turned into one of the most efficient shooters in the league. Pure hustle. Now imagine hearing someone publicly say you should be a sixth man or toss your name into a trade package after you earned that role through sweat, pressure, and clutch moments. And it's not like Reaves was just along for the ride. He was putting up near all-star level production last season. Fans, analysts, and even Lakers head coach J.J. Redick have said he deserves real all-star consideration based on his growth and impact. But here's what makes it even crazier. None of this came out of nowhere. To really understand how RichPaul and LeBron have been pulling this off for over 2 decades, you have to look at the system behind it. The rise of RichPaul, the power of LeBron's inner circle, the quiet way they've shaped the NBA for years. That's where things get wild, because RichPaul didn't just magically wake up as one of the most powerful figures in basketball, and once you see how it was built, everything starts to make sense. Now, picture this. A kid in Cleveland selling jerseys out of his car, grinding for every dollar, then crossing paths with LeBron James. Back in 2002, LeBron was just 17, already a national headline, and RichPaul spotted the opening, not just to represent him, but to lock himself into the center of power. That handshake was the first domino, a quiet move that started a chain reaction that would slowly reshape the entire league. Fast forward a few years, Paul breaks away, starts Clutch Sports, and now he's not just an agent. He's a brand builder, a narrative shaper, and the guy a lot of people in the NBA low-key worry about because he carries LeBron-level leverage. By the mid-2000s, Clutch Sports wasn't just popular, it was feared, powerful, and a big reason was LeBron standing behind it. With LeBron involved, rules suddenly felt optional, so much so that the league had to step in and create what became known as the RichPaul rule, forcing agents to have a college degree. And guess what happened next? RichPaul didn't have one, so instead of backing down, he and LeBron flexed their influence and pushed until the rule got changed, just like that. And it didn't stop there. Rumors started floating that Paul would protect his biggest clients at all costs, while smaller clients got pushed aside. And he did it with a confidence that made one thing clear. He knew how much power he and LeBron really had. Jeff Teague even let it slip on a podcast, straight up saying that LeBron's camp runs the league. That's not exaggeration. That's what insiders whisper off camera. Even legends like Charles Barkley have called them out for acting like bullies, bending teams and narratives in ways nobody else ever could. And when you look back over the last 20 years, it's not hard to see it. LeBron's influence on roster moves, coach hirings, firings, even front office decisions has been massive. Just ask Russell Westbrook, ask David Blatt, ask Frank Vogel. The pattern has been there the whole time, hiding in plain sight. Players and coaches get moved, dumped, or left hanging based on whatever LeBron and RichPaul want at the moment. And LeBron, he steps back, smiles, plays clueless, and lets his people handle the dirty work. The pattern is everywhere once you see it. Remember Nerlens Noel? Yeah, allegedly, Paul told him to turn down a $70 million deal, then went completely silent. What happened next? Noel's value crashed instantly. That's exactly what I meant earlier about mid-tier players being treated like pawns instead of priorities. Then there's Anthony Davis. His trade demand got him fined $50,000. And everyone knew Paul was out front, pushing it and shaping the narrative. But nothing happened to him. The league looked the other way, like LeBron's agent doesn't have to play by the same rules as everyone else. That part is crazy. And don't forget Mark Termini, the veteran agent who sued Paul for $4.9 million over unpaid fees, including deals tied to LeBron himself. These aren't isolated moments. They're part of a long list of legal drama and controversy surrounding this guy. Even Bronny James ending up on the Lakers didn't feel organic. That was clearly orchestrated by LeBron and Paul. Because let's be real, why does Bronny, an average prospect at best, get drafted to his father's team over other players who clearly earned that chance? Yeah, exactly. So here's where the Lakers really stand. They're in a strange spot. The talent is there. On paper, this roster should be way better than what we're seeing. But this RichPaul chaos isn't just background noise. It's leaking into the locker room and poisoning things from the inside. You can't build a championship culture when an agent is publicly floating trades and treating players like chess pieces. Paul has been untouchable for years, and LeBron's shadow gives him power most agents can only dream of. But here's the truth, the league is changing. Luka isn't just a rising star anymore. He's the new face everyone's circling around. And the old LeBron controls everything script won't work forever. For the Lakers, the path forward isn't complicated. Protect your own players. Control the locker room narrative internally. Stop letting outside voices stir chaos. That means addressing Reaves and Luka directly. Locking in trust and keeping the focus on basketball, not backroom power games. Because there's a thin line between influence and interference. And LeBron and RichPaul are dangerously close to crossing it. If Paul keeps publicly undermining teammates and speculating on trades, it won't just frustrate players. It will stain LeBron's legacy. They can either recalibrate while there's still time or keep pushing chaos and watch the league move on without them. So that's the real question. Do the Lakers double down on the LeBron-Paul playbook and risk losing Reaves and Luka's trust? Or do they finally put the team first and shut this down before it blows the whole thing up?